Of the CattleUSA Daily Podcast. Happy Monday, everyone. Today, we are welcoming our third King of the Ring guest onto the podcast. Wade Leist is joining us from Northern Michigan, and we are so excited to have him on and share a little bit more about his story. And we get kind of philosophical during the podcast as well. And towards the end, after Wade shares a little bit about his story, we just talk about the auction industry and relationship building and everything else that kind of goes along with that. So without further ado, I'm going to stop yapping and let's go ahead and get into this episode with Wade. Wade, welcome to the podcast. We are so excited to have you on as our third King of the Ring guest onto the podcast. I would love it if you could just take it away, share a little bit more about yourself, your story, all the things.
Yeah, very good. Well, it's a pleasure to be on, Lauren, and I get to watch some of your earlier episodes and looking forward to hearing from the rest of the guys. I live in Northern Michigan. That's where I'm at right now. And we have the most beautiful time of year up here, summertime. And I'm actually going to head over to my dad's sale here in a little bit and help them where I can. I grew up in the auction industry. I grew up in a sale barn for the most part. My parents, my grandfather would take cattle to a sale a couple hours south of us, and those are some of my first memories, playing next to the train tracks and moving baby calves and that kind of stuff. I didn't really understand what the industry was, but I just knew that every Wednesday we went to a sale. And my dad worked the ring there for a long time and then started selling. He was their main auctioneer for a long time. And then he moved on and bought his own market. He sold at 3 markets at one time, and then he bought his own market. And I think maybe I was like in college or halfway through college or something when he bought that, and would help him in the summer. And then after college, worked at the farm and worked at the market and ended up going to auction school and just kind of fell into it. It's not, if my grandparents hadn't been in this industry, I probably I never would have got into it. So.
Yeah, I love seeing how people's childhoods kind of shape them, because it's one of those things you think about it every once in a while. You're like, I would not be where I am today if that didn't happen, or if my parents weren't in this, or all of the things like that. Share a little bit more about what it was like to grow up in the industry and then now it continued to just be part of your life.
It was for a long time. So I would work on the farm with my grandpa, and that was from I remember being in college, and that was the Monday through Saturday thing. He just worked on the farm, and I'd play some sports in the evening, or didn't have a lot of time to go to the beach or anything. But the sale was a big thing for me because it was on Wednesday, so it split my week up. And I always look forward to it. I would take a truck and a trailer, and I had a route that I would go pick up cull cows or fat cattle or baby calves, feeder cattle, and take to the sale. And it broke my week up. So Wednesday morning, we'd meet at the farm. We'd go over kind of the route for the day, who had to pick up what. You go on that route, take it to the sale. Might have to go back for another load, but otherwise stay at the sale and then start sorting cattle, penning cattle, tagging cattle, waiting for the sale to start. And then my job was to load the scales for a long time. Then I started working the ring. And after I went to auction school, my parents would let me sell a few baby calves and let me sell a few weigh cows kind of at the end, like after, the last 10 cows that come through and they're kind of shaky and everybody's pretty well gone. They'd let me sell those. So that was how I got kind of acclimated to the livestock marketing industry. It was kind of my, it cut my week in half. And so I always look forward to it because Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday came, and Wednesday was really fast and move along quickly. And then it made the rest of the week shorter.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's how a lot of people kind of grew up in the industry, right? Like whether you were a kid that was going because your parents were on the auction block, or whether you were getting pulled out of school early because, hey, it's a Thursday and we got to go to the markets and I'm not going to be home when you get off the school bus, so you're getting picked up early type of situation. It's crazy how sale barns kind of shape a lot of our childhoods in the ag industry, especially just like the production side of the cattle industry, and how that has kind of shaped you into the person that you are today. Share a little bit more about your auctioneering journey. It was something that was obviously instilled in you from a very young age, and then you went to auction school. What have the beginning years of your career kind of looked like?
Man, I did it because I thought it would be a nice way to earn a little extra money. Like my brother was going to start working for my dad doing some estate auctions. I had tried to, develop a chant, but only to the extent of what I thought it sounded like. So I would try for 5 minutes and be like, I guess I can't do it. And that would be it. And then my brother told me that you can develop a chant and you just start slow and you can develop one. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I could do that because I'm broke and it would really help to have an extra few $100 every month helping at an auction or something, and selling is way easier than holding up stuff and help people fold out couches and stuff like that. So I thought, yeah, this would be a nice way to earn a little extra money. And then there was some local charities for like a banquet, I guess you call it, like Wild Turkey Federation or the Ducks Association, whatever they are. You could do some of those and earn a little extra cash on the side. So that's how I kind of got started. And selling livestock, my dad clearly was an established auctioneer, sold his own sale. He had a guy that came up out of the Thumb area in Michigan, and some customers kind of followed him, and he had been there for 100 years, so he wasn't going anywhere. And it didn't really look like maybe a path for me, at least not anything that was going to be coming up anytime soon. But they gave me a chance and let me sell a few, and eventually that guy retired, and then he'd sell a few more, and then um, I started getting into these contests. I started going to my first contest was a Greater Midwest contest. I heard about it from a friend of mine, and he said it was, you're around some guys that are really good, and we only sell a handful every other week or something like that, when I was there. So I thought, yeah, this would be a good experience. So I went and tried that, and then I ended up getting in the WLAC later that fall and was able to make the cut and went to the 15 World Championships. And I kind of got hooked in the competitive side, not because I'm like super competitive, but because I just enjoyed the people I was around, and I enjoyed being kind of measured against them, seeing where you stack up amongst the industry. And as luck would have it, after one of the contests that was in 18, I got a call from a gentleman who owned a stockyards in South Dakota. And he asked he said his auctioneer was having some voice trouble. And he said, I could sell, but I don't sell that much anymore. I'd rather kind of run the block. And I'm looking for somebody to come and work here. And so I went out and tried out, and we got along pretty good. And I ended up working there. And I don't go there every week, but for a decent portion of the year, I go out there, and that opened up a ton of doors. Next thing you know, I was selling in not only Mitchell, but Harriet and Aberdeen. And I mean, once you kind of get in some of those markets, you can open the door to a bunch of other ones. So that's kind of how my path went. It's maybe not typical, but we're talking about how people grow up in the stockyards, like going to all these different markets. I see the same story, like kind of playing out across the board. When I go to Harriet, the Feldheim family, their boy Grady, in Harriet, South Dakota, like, there's a bar restaurant, and then there's a school, and then there's a stockyard. Like, there's not a whole lot else. And I'll be up there working on a Friday, and there's Grady like coming in from the back, and Kent's like, hey, where'd you come from? He's like, well, I told him, we had a big sale and I probably should leave early and come help here. He's like, you need to go back to school. He's like, yeah, but we got all these cattle to sort. He's like, well, okay, I'm glad you're here. Go sort the cattle, but you really can't be leaving school early. Your mom's going to kill us. So we see that play out across the country. It's really fun to watch. When you love this industry and when you enjoy doing that kind of stuff, you get hooked. You get hooked in that sale barn. It's hard to leave. It's hard to want to do anything else.
Yeah, I love that story. That's so fun. And it goes back to kind of like another part of what you discussed was when you got into the competitive side, you were around a bunch of other people that thought the same way that you did, were pushing and striving for more, and they were competitive, but in a good way. And you were meeting more people in the industry. And I think that is one aspect that the competitive side can be so great for, because like you said, in some places it's a school, a bar and grill, and a sale barn. And that's about all you got for a lot of miles, especially in these rural communities. And so it's cool to see some people look at that and say, hey, I've got an opportunity to get out of my rural community and push myself to be a better auctioneer, a better industry person for just the livestock industry as a whole, and get out of my comfort zone. And I definitely see that as an aspect that you kind of took as well.
They really helped me coming back to our area after I go to a contest. The first contest I went to was in Fargo, North Dakota for the Greater Midwest. And I came back and I just sat up a little straighter. And the second contest I went to, where they said I was good enough to go to the world contest, I was like, man, I think they're wrong, but I'm going to go and I'm going to give it all I got. And then I went to a couple other qualifiers, and when you get your score sheet back, you start looking at areas that you did well, and you start looking at areas where you didn't do well. And you have to take some of it with a grain of salt, but you also have to look at it and say, like, maybe they're right on that. Maybe I thought I did a pretty good introduction, but let me go back and look at that again. And you go back and look and say, yeah, they're probably right on that. I could have done a little better. And then I would go to the sale yard or my dad's stockyard, and I would work on that. I would sit up and when we're getting ready to start the sale, I'd make a little introduction. And if somebody's cattle were coming in that I knew pretty well, like I'd sit up and square my shoulders up and talk directly into the microphone and make eye contact with those folks and tell them how much we appreciated their cattle. And it's not that I did that to gain points. It's just that I realized that it's important. And so I did a better job doing it. And the producers that mean so much to our industry, they felt better about it. And so there was just this connection. I was like, yeah, you know what? The score sheet, like working on these things really helps me in a contest, but it also really allows me to say the things that I care about anyway. So why would I not be doing that? I'm like, I've been missing this for, so long. Like, why don't I do that? And then you look around and I'm thinking, man, I go to other sales and they don't do that there either. Like our industry is kind of missing out on some of this stuff, like that personal connection. And I think contests help us do that. I think they really make us focus on that stuff, which in turn makes us better at our job, which in turn makes it easier for people to sell cattle in a stockyard setting, in a fixed market setting. Like all those things really come together, and contests are what really accentuate that. So I'm grateful for the opportunity that I've had going through contests, and I certainly wouldn't, I wouldn't be doing some of the stuff I'm doing now if I hadn't started going to them.
Can you share a little bit more about, you touched on just the relationship between the person on the auction block and the producers in the audience and how important that is and how it probably shouldn't be overlooked. And you made a really great point about it just makes you better as an industry representative, which then I think if you're building relationships in the industry, you're representing the industry better and you really have your finger on the pulse of what's going on and all of those things. Can you share a little bit more about your thoughts on just relationships within the industry?
I don't have to. You just said it all. Like you just put it all out there. Like that's what it is. Like you have a better pulse. There is no better feeling than having a producer walk up to you after the sale, stay late, wait till you're done, walk up to you, shake your hand, look you in the eye, and say, "Thank you. You said some nice things about what we do, and we appreciate it." I just had it last week. I was doing a video sale, and one of the producers was in the building, and I've known this guy for a long, long time, known his family forever. And he come up and he said, "Man, thanks for saying that. That meant a lot." And nothing feels better than that, right? And if a producer comes up to you and says, "Hey, I'm gonna sell next week. Will you make sure that you're up on the block when my cattle are up there?" That's not disparaging any other auctioneer. That's just saying, I like the trust that they have in me to do that. Like I like that, and it doesn't mean that they don't trust anybody else. Heck, there's a lot of times, especially in Mitchell, like the other guy will do just as good, if not better. He's so good at his job. And so to have somebody come up and say, "Hey, when mine are selling, I'd appreciate it if you're up there, if you can." They understand that sometimes the schedule doesn't allow, but that just means so much. And when you can create that connection, not create it, but when you understand that it's there, and when you take full advantage of it, I think it's an incredible part of our industry. And there's lots of ways to market cattle. You can sell in a video, you can sell them direct, you can take them to a stockyards, you can put them on social media if you want to, and have people come kick your tires. But at the end of the day, we need to make it easier. We need to do everything we can to make it easier for them to want to come to the sale yard. Especially in our area, it used to be that they were just taking part of their day off from the farm and they were coming to the sale. And now in our area, it's really not that. Maybe it is. Maybe it's like this everywhere, but I just notice it a lot more here. That the guy that had 100 cows, he's now got 40, and he went to town and he got a job. And just about everybody in his family's working. And there's a lot of other obligations. And so they have to take time off of work, and they have to take time out of their schedule to not just come to the sale, but sort the cattle, haul the cattle, come to the sale, and go back home. And, it takes an extreme amount of time. And then if they're doing like the protocols that we want them to, like vaccinating and weaning the cattle, now you're adding like extra days onto this thing. You're adding this extra work, and we're promoting that, trying to help them, trying to help their bottom line. But sometimes what they have to do and sacrifice to get all that done, sometimes the juice isn't worth the squeeze to them. They're like, "I'd rather take $30 less if I don't have to take all that time to do that." And here we are pounding on the trying to get them more money, and sometimes that's not what they want. So when we have that connection with them, and we appreciate more, and we talk about it from the mic, like, "Hey, I appreciate the fact that these cattle are weaned for 60 days. That takes a lot. I appreciate the fact he's got 200 head and they're all within a pretty short window. I appreciate the fact that he goes and spends a lot of money on bulls. And I appreciate the fact that the whole family's working at this operation. When they hear something like that and there's that connection, it makes it easier for them to trust this fixed market, this live auction setting. It makes it easier for them to trust that, and it makes them want to come there. And I think that's so important for our industry. So you probably said it better than I did, in a lot less words, but the connection that we build when we do those things, I think it's irreplaceable.
Yeah,
Get
it's
that they don't
something.
get that anywhere else.
Yeah, it's something that can't be overlooked within our industry. It's something that feels so mundane, right? It feels like one of those things that we shouldn't have to focus on, or that it doesn't really matter, but it's one of those things that is a building block of it really matters. It's the foundation of a lot of these businesses. And I was just thinking, when you were sharing that story, I was just thinking about how my family, we drive an hour and a half. My entire life, we have driven an hour and a half to our sale barn that we sell out here in Manhattan because of the relationships that we have with the people here. And we have an opportunity in Northeast Kansas. We've got sale barns left and right. Let me tell you, they're all over the place. So we have an opportunity to go to a lot of places, but we choose to drive an hour and a half, 2 hours every Friday when we're selling to go sell at this sale barn. It's because of the relationships that my family has built there. And then also I went and joined my dad whenever he comes to Manhattan. I live here now. So whenever he comes to the sale barn, we always try to go get lunch. I'll go pick him up and we'll go to some of my favorite spots here in town and go grab lunch while cattle are selling. And I walked in the other day. He doesn't have any service in the sale barn. And so I just showed up at like 1 p.m. I was like, okay, I'm done with my meetings. I know he's not going to answer. I'm just going to show up. I show up and I walk in there, and it's crazy to see. I don't spend much time in the sale barn anymore as an adult as I used to as a kid. And the amount of people the amount of people in there has gone down drastically. And then I sat next to my dad and I was like, hey, I'm hungry. Can we go eat? And he was like, my cattle haven't sold yet. Like, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to watch my cattle sell. And I was like, Dad, it's not going to change. Like, they're kill cows. You're not going to bring them home. Why do you need to watch them sell? It's like, it's not like you're going to buy them back. You're getting rid of them. They're kill cows. Like, they're going on the truck one way or another. And he's like, no, it's the principle of it. Like, it's the principle of watching your cattle sell. And listening to you talk, that just made me really think about that conversation of, you know what, that's something that's maybe been lost a little bit in the recent years. And
I think it gets overlooked. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's something that sets us apart from the other ways to market cattle. That's what sets us apart. So like, let's take full advantage of it. And your dad sitting there watching his cows sell, in theory, doesn't have any value on what they're going to bring. It doesn't make him bring more or less if he's sitting there, right? Like, he's not going to have an impact on them bringing more, because he's not going to be bidding on them, or, like you said, buying them back or taking them home. Like, just come back, we'll get the check later. Big deal, right? Well, it actually, I can't quantify it, but it happens all the time when somebody sits there and they have the principle of it and they're proud of their cattle and they sit there and watch them sell. And from the block, you say, Mr. Moylan is here watching his cattle sell. He's sitting right over there, guys. He does a nice job. He's brought 10 cows to town. I think he was just getting ready to kick these things out to grass. Maybe split the calves off and sold them this morning. And here the cows are. He sits up a little taller, and about every time the buyer will kind of look over and nod their head at him. And sure enough, they'll give just a little bit more. When somebody's taking the time to be there and watch their cattle sell and taking pride in what they do, they're a little more apt to make sure they're the last person bid. Believe it or not, the buyer actually kind of likes it when that guy comes down after the sale and says, "Hey, thank you," pats him on the shoulder and walks out. They remember that too. So that relationship that we have, not only from the block but from the producer on our side. This is maybe off topic a little bit, probably not too much off topic, but it's been something I think about a lot. So this past month, I did the interviews for the current World Livestock Championship or Auctioneer Championship. And over the years, and then I really seen it this year, maybe not as much, but it stuck out a little bit more. But over the years, I've heard in the answers that auctioneer contestants give, I hear them say, we've got to get these producers to do this. We've got to make our producers understand this. And I'm always thinking about it like, I don't know, our producers are pretty smart. Like, I don't think we need, or we got to make them do anything. And I don't like referring to them as like these producers. Like, they're our friends, they're our neighbors, and they're the lifeblood of what we do. So it's just a matter of verbiage. But I've been making a conscious effort to not use those words when I talk about the people who trust us to market their cattle. Like just like we talked about a little bit ago, like, hey, they might be willing to accept $30 a hundred less if their cattle aren't weaned because they don't have to have another pen. They don't have to sort the cattle, 60 days before they come to town. They don't have to feed them separate. They don't have to do some of those things that they can't do when they have a job outside of the farm. And it's not up to us to make them understand anything. It's up to us to market them the best way that we can, based on what their operation allows them to do.
Yeah, that's so well put. So well put, Wade. As we close out the podcast, are there any other final thoughts that you would like to leave with our audience as we kind of start to wrap up?
Well, I'm excited to be in Dodge City. I've wanted to come to this contest for quite a while. And it just never seemed to quite work out in my schedule. But I enjoy the competitive part. I enjoy being around my friends. And I like on this contest that it's just about how you market cattle. Just sit down, pin your ears back, sell the cattle to the best of your ability, and see where the chips fall. I think there's 8 guys in this contest. Every one of them is like the best in their field. Like it's going to be an incredible showing. But I love the fact that it takes part with this Cattle Marketing Hall of Fame presentation. And that's the thing that I'm like, it's going to be hard for me to get here at this time, or, when am I going to be showing up, and trying to work on my flights. And I'm like, I'll miss golf. I'll miss being out with the friends. I'm not going to miss this Hall of Fame thing. The Shaban family is being honored. I don't remember who all is going. I think, who's the guy from Lahana? John Campbell is going in. I don't know the gentleman, but I love watching I love watching the stuff he puts on Facebook, his Facebook lives, or his commentary that he does. This stuff cracks me up. So I'm really looking forward to that part. I think it's so cool that the Winter family, I don't know if it's just the Winter family that does all this, but the fact that they recognize the lifelong contributions of some people and what it has meant to our industry moving forward, I think is incredibly special. And I'm so excited to be there for that at that night. And then next day, we're going to all try to do what we do best to the best of our ability and try to win some money. It's going to be fun. It's going to make our industry look really cool. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, absolutely. We are excited to have you down there with us, Wade, just here in a few weeks. It's going to be here before we know it. Can't believe that it's already July. We're already over halfway through the year, and it's going to be here before we know it. So thank you so much again for taking some time out of your day to come on and share your thoughts and a little bit more about your story, and just leave some really great insight to all of our listeners out there. So Wade, thank you for your time. And to all of you listeners, make sure you like, subscribe, rate, review. If you enjoyed the podcast with Wade today, share it with a friend. We really appreciate it here at the team. And as always, we hope you have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you all tomorrow on another episode of the CattleUSA Daily Podcast. Have a good one, y'all.